Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sandivadi Paschati. Excuse me, it's way too bright. We've been reading from the introduction to Srimad Bhagavatam, the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and elaborating, commenting, and expanding. It's a brief summary. We've been reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's an introduction, the life of Lord Chaitanya. We're going to continue that. Excuse me. I'm taking some amino acids. They're very good for mental work. So let's do a little kirtan and then we will begin. Even though we're late, I will be very sweet about his sannyas. And as often happens, with me I can't stop reading and then I'm late for class. As you notice, I've been late almost every day. I get absorbed. What can I say? The pastimes are extremely sweet. Very, very sweet. Hare Krishna. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivara Dari. Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Vijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Sodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Sodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Vijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Sodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Shodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Shodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Shodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. So we are going to begin reading from the introduction to the Srimad Bhagavatam on the life of Lord Chaitanya. And you just have to give me a moment because I have to bring it up. And we have to find out where we left off. It's actually not the introduction. It's called A Brief Life Sketch of Lord Chaitanya. The beginning was kind of a sketch of a lot of his life. And then it went back to his birth. And we started reading about his early life. And so we read about everyone chanting the holy name in the river. So I'm going to begin there. And you have to excuse me for a few moments periodically while I take my pills, 5 of them. Well, only 3 left. Hare Krishna. What are those pills he's taking? I want to know. Go online, MAPS, MAPS. They're amino acids, which, if you do a lot of mental work, are very, very helpful. I guess it provides the nutrition your brain needs to do this kind of work, but they're hard to swallow. Okay, so there's no page numbers here. It's not a book number. It begins the simultaneous occurrence of the Lord's appearance and the lunar eclipse indicated the distinctive mission of the Lord. This mission was to preach the importance of chanting the holy name of the Lord in this age of Kali quarrel. In this present age, quarrels take place even over trifles, and therefore the Shastras have recommended for this age a common platform of realization, namely chanting the holy names of the Lord. As you probably noticed, during the Kirtan, nobody's fighting. That all happens before and after the Kirtan. Have you noticed that? But during the Kirtan, everyone's quite happy. Everyone's dancing and chanting. Even with the people they don't like, and while they're chanting and dancing, they don't not like them anymore. It's like everything's okay, isn't it? And all your problems kind of wait at the door during the Kirtan, and especially if you're dancing, it's like you're out of this world. So it's interesting, like nothing else is going to work in Kali Yuga. Who would think? From deity worship to yajna, not from austere meditation to yajna to deity worship, all very strict practices. And then the Yuga Dharma becomes singing and dancing. Who would think? But that's all we're really capable of doing properly. We can all sing, we can all dance. And everybody likes to sing and dance. And anytime there's a festival, just any kind of festival, there's a lot of singing and there's a lot of dancing. And actually, by the time people drink their sixth beer, they're dancing, right? Like everybody likes to dance. Dancing is how you celebrate your sixth beer, right? Isn't it? We used to do Kirtan at a festival. And it would take till about 4 or 5 o'clock till they had their 6 beers, and then we had these huge crowds chanting and dancing with us. I don't know if we should distribute beer prasadam because it gets people chanting, but sometimes I question, maybe it's the new prasadam for the age of Kali, because nobody was dancing until the afternoon, till the beer kicked in. So I don't know. Can you use beer in Krishna's service? Well, fortunately, we didn't have to buy the beer or give it to them, but they eternally benefited by chanting and dancing. And obviously a lot of people would not chant and dance Hare Krishna mantra. Some would, of course, but some wouldn't unless they were a little intoxicated. So that's just Lord Chaitanya's mercy. But everyone likes to sing and dance. That's for sure. I was in a country called Dominica. On Saturday night, we would drive home through the mountains. And you'd hear all these churches and everybody was singing. It was like they're having kirtan everywhere. That's how they worship the Lord, through song. That's common. Gospel and singing praises. And so many churches have bands singing beautiful songs in praise of God. People can hold meetings to glorify the Lord in their respective languages and with melodious songs. And if such performances are executed in an offenseless manner, it is certain that the participants will gradually attain spiritual perfection without having to undergo more rigorous methods. Okay, this word melodious, I think the meaning's obvious, but I'm going to look it up just because Prabhupada uses it. It means with melody. But let's see if there's other definitions. Of producing or having a pleasant tune, tuneful, the melodious chanting of the monks. A pleasing sounding. Oh, okay, very nice. Pleasing sounding. Having a nice melody, a pleasant tune. Oh, okay, like the last kirtan we did. We could say that was melodious. I think it was melodious. It was at least melodious to me. It was pleasant, I thought. Just like, if a song is pleasing, then people want to hear it, isn't it? That's how you create hit songs. It's so pleasing, people want to hear it over and over again. Last night, I came across a song that had 230 million hits. I think it had 230 million. I was like, what? That's crazy. What if the Hare Krishna mantra had 230 million hits? That would be amazing. And this was by a band, I think, from the 80s or 70s. I was already a devotee. A band named Heart. If you're young, you may have never heard of them, although they're one of the most famous bands. Like 230 million hits for one song. Right? So people love pleasing melodies because it makes them feel good. And there's one group of devotees. Oh, by the way, this band, I don't know if you've heard of them before, but if you get 230 million hits, even if you get 20 million hits, you're a big band. Just so happens, and I just found this out a month ago, one of my high school friends, like first name friends, been to his house, played a little music with him. He's the lead guitarist for that band. I didn't find that out till like a month ago. That was kind of interesting. Anyway, so what was I saying? I forgot. Melodious melodies people like to sing. Oh yeah, so this group of devotees, they're not part of ISKCON anymore. And they're quite popular. And one of the ways they've become popular is through Kirtan. And they have their best musicians perform their Kirtan. And they have sometimes guitar, sometimes bass, sometimes keyboard, harmonium also. It's melodious. It's not ding, 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 boom, 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 boom. I remember we used to, when I was a young brahmachari, we had a lot of energy, especially after we came back from Sankirtan. We were like, fired up, Prabhu. And we would have these kirtans, which were like tornadoes in the temple room. And I have a vivid memory that literally it was like a tornado. And all the guests were like looking at us dancing like madmen. And they were all against the wall. Like, they didn't know what to think. I mean, I think they understood something ecstatic was going on. But they were like, it was so intense. They were like, ah. They couldn't get out of the temple, so they just went to the wall and the center would open up, and the brahmacharis were like, fired up brahmacharis. So some of the senior devotees, who senior meant they were devotees for like 15 years, 35 years old. I said, Prabhus, I think you should mellow it out because you probably haven't noticed, but our guests, they can't chant along with that. And Prabhupada said, the Vrindavan kartal should not be louder than the voice, which means if there's no amplification, they really have to be quiet. Anyway, so what this group would do, it's like their best singers, their best musicians, like really nice, melodious. You may want to do this. You may think it's bogus. You may not. But they're very successful. Very successful. They take popular songs and they put kirtan to it. So it's like people already know the song. Sometimes people don't recognize it's that song, but because they know the song is like subconsciously programmed into them, and they take songs which everybody likes or most people like. So naturally they like it. And so it's like, it's like prasadam, because it tastes good, people will eat it, and it's spiritual. So I remember Tariq Swami used to sing a Beatles song, "We All Live in a Yellow Submarine." We all live in a yellow submarine, yellow submarine, yellow submarine. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Maybe you've heard him sing that song. Maybe you sing that kirtan. Maybe you didn't know, but that's where it comes from. But anyway, so this organization is having quite a lot of success through kirtan. Their main focus is on kirtan, or one of their main focuses, and this is how they do it. Interesting, right? Melodious kirtan. I'm glad I looked up that word. I think that's important. Get people involved in the kirtan. And you remember I was saying, I think last week, that before the devotees went to London, Prabhupada taught them how to do kirtan, and just, it just so happened Hare Krishna mantra hit the top of the charts in some countries, and the top 10 or 20 in England. So that's interesting. Not that Prabhupada said we're musicians. He said we're not musicians, we're not performing. But I think it's a good analogy is cooking. Okay, we want people to take prasadam. I remember, and Prabhupada said, he'd say, like, make curd, fried in ghee. They'll get that taste of meat that they want, and then they'll give up meat. So I remember once one of our senior preachers, very dynamic preacher, was at L.A. Rath Yatra. This was like, who knows, 20, 30 years ago. Not that. Just making a point, I'm not criticizing anybody. This was just an observation he made. They were serving out pasta and some vegetable maybe. I didn't even know if the vegetables were cooked. Something that they could obviously make in quantity that wasn't expensive and it was easy to make. And they had, enough for everybody, or more than enough. And he was saying, it's nice they're distributing prasadam, but they already know what pasta is, and how is this going to get them off meat? How is this going to make them vegetarian? So when you cook nice prasadam that tastes out of this world, it tastes like they've never tasted. That really has an effect on people in many ways. Purifying them if they're not vegetarian. They start thinking about satisfied. So sometimes I see kirtan like that. If it's done nicely, then people get more involved in it, more absorbed in it. If people are chanting and dancing, if we can get people to chant and dance through our doing kirtan nicely, melodiously, why not? That's what we should be doing. Of course, it's the purity of the Vaishnavas chanting. It's not a performance. We're not trying to show off. At the same a good experience, or maybe a profound experience with the holy name. So it's not that we're trying to draw attention to ourselves. We're trying to chant purely because that's the main thing, to purely chant, just like we cook with devotion, but especially when we're preparing prasadam to be offered to Krishna. Prasadam is going to be offered and then distributed. Obviously, we want to attract people to Krishna. We want to please Krishna with the prasadam, and we want to attract people. So those are the two things. We want to please Krishna with our kirtan, sincere, and we're not performing. And we also want to make it accessible to people so that they can chant. The tunes are easy to follow. They can relate to it. So different countries, people relate to different kinds of music. What works in one country doesn't always work in another country. Okay. Let's go back. If such performances are executed in an offenseless manner, it is certain that the participants will gradually attain spiritual perfection without having to undergo more rigorous methods. Yeah, so this is about the best we can do, Kali Yuga, mercy case. Special Olympics spiritual life, handicapped. You can chant and dance and eat, right? Yeah, I could manage that. All right, I don't know about meditate all day. Yeah, okay. I don't know about austerity. Yeah, okay. Do this. And then the other thing Prabhupada's saying here is melodious songs. So that also means bhajans, or perhaps songs in English that can communicate the philosophy. Like you translate a bhajan, sing it in English, and then explain it to people, or sing it in your language, Polish or Croatian or Italian. It's also possible, right? We haven't really done that. I did that when I was a young devotee. I'd sing songs in English at the Sunday feast. I was giving the lecture, and I said, give me a guitar, and I'd sing the song, and I'd explain it. Whatever works. Maybe not necessary. But, when you sing a bhajan to a group, an audience, they don't know what it means. So singing something in English, that's a novel idea, right? Like actually sing it in the language that people understand. That's a good idea. I never thought of that. Yeah. Anyway, something to think about. At such meetings, everyone, the learned and the foolish, the rich and the poor, Hindus and the Muslims, the Englishmen and the Indians, and the Chandalas and Brahmanas, can all hear the transcendental sounds and thus cleanse the dust of material association from the mirror of the heart. Okay, did you pick up on that? This was, Prabhupada was saying, this is the universality of Mahaprabhu. Indians, Americans, Brahmins, Chandalas, Hindus, and, oh my God, Muslims. Why do I say, oh my God? Because Hindus and Muslims are not always the best of friends. Everyone can come together. Not all many Hindus and Muslims are close friends, but many are not. Like Pakistan and India are not. To confirm the Lord's mission, all the people of the world will accept the holy name of the Lord as the common platform for the universal religion of mankind. Now, it's also interesting, as you may know, Prabhupada said Jesus is our guru. So what did he mean? He meant Siksha Guru, right? Well, how is he our guru? Because Prabhupada said he's teaching about God. So how could he not be our guru? But in terms of following, we are Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So in terms of following the details of Christianity, that we don't do. Neither do the Christians follow the details of Vaishnavism. But the principle of his teachings, surrender, love thy neighbor, love God, and so forth, be humble, be sense-controlled, and so forth, those are universal, and therefore he's our guru. So the name of God, whatever language you chanted in, that's the Yuga Dharma. Of course, we would say, but chanting Hare Krishna is endowed with Braj Prema, which is true. But still, Prabhupada was once in Iran. I told this story. Iran. It's not Iran. Iran. And he really liked the call for prayer. And the devotee said, we're trying to get them to chant Hare Krishna, but they just want to chant Allah or whatever Allah Akbar. I don't know. I don't even know the words to that. How could I not know the words? Maybe because I'm not Muslim. That might explain it, yeah. But I've heard it so many times that I never really understood. Allah. They're chanting the name of Allah. So Prabhupada liked it. And so the devotee said, we're trying to get them to chant Hare Krishna, and they want to chant Allah. Prabhupada said, don't make me sectarian. So I think that's interesting. We are offering the holy name, but it's not like we're going to pull religious people away from their practice and say, you shouldn't chant Allah, or you shouldn't chant this or that. We could say you could add chanting Hare Krishna, or chant the name of God in your language. Of course, they're different names. Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Harinam Chintamani said they're more intimate names, the names which describe the Lilas of Krishna, and they're names which describe the qualities of Krishna. And of course, Allah, I think, means the greatest or almighty, so the highest. But those are the qualities. It's not as intimate as the name Govinda, cowherd boy, or Radha Raman, lover of Radha. So different names have different potencies, but still, potency is there in his name. That we learn from Sri Shashastakam, second verse. So the last line I will read again. To confirm the Lord's mission, all the people of the world will accept the holy name of the Lord as the common platform of universal religion of mankind. So this is our, people say, what do you believe? We believe the universal religion is to glorify God, sing his holy names. That's why we chant. And that every religion should do this. And this is how the world will become united. Sing, glorify God. He's the Father. Whatever name in your tradition, however you do it, with harmonium and mridanga, with a choir, with guitar and bass, whatever, how you do it with a big organ in Notre Dame. They have an amazing organ. I went there 2 years ago. Oh my God. Oh my God. That was incredible. That pipe organ and the acoustics of the church. Wow. Amazing. We ended up there for Mass. It was amazing. And they were singing these songs, and it was like so well done, so pure, devotional. I was just listening yesterday. Our godbrother Ranchor Prabhu, he was raised. He went to religious schools, and he was part of the choir. And he was getting trained by one senior monk, and a monk was teaching him a song, and he said, this is a song about God. So when you think of this song, you're singing to him, you're glorifying him. That's all, that's how you should be thinking. So it's not that other traditions don't understand or don't have the bhav, the emotion. And so you can see a lot of traditions, singing, glorifying God is very, very important. And so we appreciate that. It's not Braj Bhakti, all right? We appreciate that the name of Krishna coming from Mahaprabhu has special power, but it doesn't mean that others chanting is of no use, and we have to force them out of their tradition. If they chant Hare Krishna, of course, that would be good. We would encourage that, but not to the point of fighting with them about who is better, whose God is better. As Hridaya Nanamar said, when religions fight, it's like saying, my father is stronger than your father. Well, my father can beat up your father. Well, my father knows how to fix cars and yours doesn't. So he said, it's like kids arguing about religion. Well, my God is better than your God. My God is stronger than your God. Oh, I didn't know there were two. By definition, there can only be one supreme cause of all causes. How does there two? How did that happen? Okay, so I have to find you. Where are you? There you are. Okay, so I'm just checking to see if I provoked any comments or questions, because I was reading, and when I'm reading, I'm obviously not on the chat seeing what's going on. Nadia's new favorite melody. I'm sure the other melody was also your favorite, right? The one you sang. I won't show you how to play it, Christy, because if you're a musician, you should figure it out. You should both figure it out, Yeah. Pradyumna figured it out. But Pradyumna, you go to, if you go up the scale from D, then that's E, to F, to E, to C, or F, G, and then C, D. Of course, that's kind of the bass line, but you could play that on the keyboard. All right, Pradyumna, you're hired. You're hired to play in the band because you figured it out just by hearing. That's a musician. They just hear it and they figure it out. Okay. 108 beers, no more dancing. 6, 4 beers you can still chant. 6, I don't know. It depends on your endurance. I think for devotees, like 1 sip and they would fall asleep. Okay, Sri Radha says, my husband's parents' church I just went to when we visited them was like a concert was happening before the pastor came to give his talk. Then another concert after. They hold their church in a high school auditorium. So the band was on stage. Like that. All right, sign me up. I like it. We used to do that sometimes back in the day, with devotee musicians. We do. Kirtan is like, you can chant Kirtan without any instruments and still be ecstatic. But, I was with Prabhupada once, and he was doing a program. And one of the sannyasis was leading Kirtan, and he was sitting down with harmonium. And Prabhupada said, why? This is what we were told, why are you playing harmonium? And he said, well, it helps people get into it. And Prabhupada said, I don't think it's necessary. And they were saying, well, we go out to the college and, it creates this vibration. And Prabhupada said, well, if you think it helps. So there's also that side, I think Prabhupada may have been concerned we're just kind of get into the music too much. Yeah. Yama Niyama. Yeah, well, that's actually his stage name. Jyotirmai is talking about Yama Niyama. It's actually a Kendra. It takes Christmas songs and makes them devotee songs. The Handicap Olympics, yeah. Welcome to the Handicap Olympics, ladies and gentlemen. In this age of Kali, all you have to do to become Krishna conscious is chant, dance, and when you get tired, all you have to do is eat your way back to God. Sometimes, that story? Some Mayavadi came and he had some pamphlets and he wanted to distribute. And Prabhupada said, okay, you can distribute your pamphlets. Or he said, leave them here. So he left them here. Then it was time, they had some nuts or dried fruit or something. And Prabhupada said, okay, take those pamphlets and put them down, and they used them for plates. So we will use your Mayavad pamphlets for plates. So you get the benefit. And Prabhupada said, once, I don't think it was this story, but he once said, and, their dry philosophy, where will we get them? He said, but we will eat our way back to Godhead. So, I mean, really, how many of you can do severe austerity? Just to get out of bed early in the morning is difficult for so many of us. I have such a hard time getting devotees to get up early. Oh, but Prabhu, I can't get up before 6. It's so early. And come on. 6 o'clock, half the day's already over. Even the non-devotees, the successful non-devotees, they're up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. How does that make you feel? Hope it makes you feel guilty. So you get up early. Okay, Tanya says, Nyama Niyama Das. Yama Niyama Brahmacharya is hilarious. Yeah, Akendra. Yeah, Akendra. Akendra is funny, but when you meet him, you won't know he's funny. It's very subtle. He's very subtle in his humor. Yeah, he's a good actor also. You can see him acting in his... yeah. Akendra was at one point the drummer in Shelter. That's when I first met him. They say Allah Akbar, which means Allah is the Almighty. Allah Akbar. Yeah. Pradyumna Das. Oh, yeah, I guess you'll have to leave Vrindavan, huh? Join our Kirtan program. Oh, we'll do it in Vrindavan. We'll play that in Vrindavan. Yeah, Mridanga, Sydney's talking about Mridanga. Mridanga is transcendental paraphernalia of Mahaprabhu. So Mridanga is special. And as I said before, the job of the Mridanga player is to inspire people to dance, like put that energy into it, because dancing is actually important in the Kirtan of Mahaprabhu. I know a lot of devotees like to sit and meditate. That's okay. But dancing also increases the ecstasy, according to Prabhupada. Jyotirmaya says, when I started with yoga and mantra, the Orthodox priest of my church called me to ask what is going on and asked me if I pray to God and with what words I pray. It seemed to me like a war, a soul to which God will belong. Yeah, seemed to me like a war. Yeah, a war over your soul. Yeah, so we don't want to be like that, right? So Jairate says, for people who practice other religions, their God may be to them what Krishna is to us, and I can imagine how we would feel if someone told us our God is not the most benevolent and theirs is, yeah, which is basically what the Christians. You don't have to imagine, just go out in the street and meet a Christian and you'll be able to feel it when they tell you that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Hare Krishna to all of you. I've read all your comments. Some I don't read out loud, but I read them all. Some are kind of telling me how that you like me, so I read them, but I read them to me. I don't read them to you. Of course, you can read them also. Lord Balaram took the form of a mridanga. He did with those fiberglass ones, right? Balaram mridanga. Yeah. Balaram is everything in Krishna Lila, right? Balaram provides everything. Okay. So everyone wants to go to that church now, Sri Radha. If you have issues, like some devotees have issues like with Christianity, probably because of bad experiences with fundamentalism and just, knowledge of how they minimize some of the sinful activities that we restrain from. But if you ever have a chance to listen to some of the Christian songs, you realize that they're expressing the same thing we are. We want mercy from God. We praise Him. There was a song years ago, and it was called, I don't know the name of the song, but the chorus was, "Blessed be the holy name. Blessed be the holy name of the Lord. Blessed be your holy names." And I forget the rest of the song. But it was kind of like throughout life's ups and downs, the holy name is there. And there are lots of Christian songs about God's mercy, how I was fallen. Of course, Amazing Grace is the most popular, but there are many songs like that. So there are, even 2,000 years later, it did filter through. That many of the teachings of Christ are still alive and same as what Prabhupada is giving us, what Bhagavatam is giving us. Just in a different way, in a different form, to a different depth, to a different amount of knowledge. So, we don't want to discourage Christians. Of course, we discourage them from eating meat. That was really the only thing Prabhupada took up with the Christians. He didn't discourage them from their various modes of worship. He didn't even get into the wine drinking. He was more concerned about the meat eating. Okay. All right, so we're going to continue reading. So this is, as I said, this is a summary, so it's going from different phases of his life very quickly. When the Lord was on the lap of his mother, he would at once stop crying as soon as the ladies surrounding him chanted the holy names and clapped their hands. This peculiar incident, I can't speak anymore. This peculiar incident was observed by the neighbors with awe and veneration. Sometimes the young girls took pleasure in making the Lord cry and then stopping him by chanting the holy name. So, from his very childhood, the Lord began to preach the importance of the holy name. In his early age, Lord Sri Chaitanya was known as Nimai. This name was given by his beloved mother because the Lord took his birth beneath a nimba, or a neem tree, in the courtyard of his paternal house. Many of you have been there. The original tree is no longer there. Another tree has been planted in that spot. But we worship that spot, we worship the dust. And if you've been there, consider yourself greatly fortunate. If you haven't been there, try to get there after COVID. And get there and pray and appreciate that you're there. When the Lord was offered solid food at the age of 6 months, in the Anna Prashana ceremony, the Lord indicated his future activities. At this time, it was customary to offer the child both coins and books in order to get some indication of the future tendencies of the child. The Lord was offered on one side coins and on the other side Srimad Bhagavatam. The Lord accepted the Bhagavatam instead of the coins. You know, it's like, is a child going to be rich or is a child going to be a scholar? Sometimes when this ceremony is done, and you know, it's kind of like the parents put the Bhagavatam in front of the money almost, you know, so like, oh, my child picked the Bhagavatam. Yeah, because he couldn't get to the money. He's going towards the money, and then they kind of like push the book over, and then the child sees the book because it's moving. Anything moving is attractive. And they're like, oh, he got the Bhagavatam. He's going to be a great devotee. But I suspect there are probably some parents that are happy he went to the money. Good, we're going to be rich. We've been poor for 10 generations. That's an interesting ceremony. It's meant to show the proclivity of the child. Anyway, if you make a lot of money, you can print a lot of books. When he was a mere baby crawling in the yard, one day a snake appeared before him, and the Lord began to play with it. All the members of the house were struck with fear and awe. But after a little while, the snake went away, and the baby was taken away by his mother. Like, what happened? Who was that snake? What's going on? Things like that would happen all the time. Once he was stolen by a thief who intended to steal his ornaments. But the Lord took a pleasure trip on the shoulder of the bewildered thief, who was searching for a solitary place in order to rob the baby. It so happened that the thief, wandering hither and thither, finally arrived just before the house of Jagannath Mishra, and, being afraid of being caught, dropped the baby at once. Of course, the anxious parents and relatives were glad to see the lost child. Oh, you brought our child back. Thank you, thank you. We thought he was lost. Thank you so much. They just ran. He thought he was going to be caught red-handed. What a fortunate thief to carry the Lord on his shoulders. Wow. So, obviously these pastimes are similar to the pastimes of baby Krishna. And what's significant about this? Well, Lord Chaitanya had a hard time getting people to accept him and hear from him. And we talked briefly about that yesterday. And that precipitated his taking sannyas. And we also, as representatives of Mahaprabhu, have a duty to establish his supremacy in the world. And so the more, it's just the way the world is, the more he does superhuman feats, the more miracles he performs, the easier it is to convince people. Just like in Christianity, people, many Christian sects will say Jesus is God, and they'll point to various things he did, like walking on water and turning a little bit of food into a lot of food, etc., or healing the sick. So Mahaprabhu is doing these things, which is very beneficial for us as preachers in trying to say, who's Chaitanya? You say he's God. And you say, well, look what he did. You'd say, look at these Lilas. He came to teach the holy name, and the only way you could get him to stop crying was to chant. And when he took birth, everyone was chanting. And he was kidnapped, and he totally bewildered the thief. And the thief ended up taking him back home. And he would play with poisonous snakes, and nothing would happen. Also, his devotees also performed, many of them performed, at least some of them, amazing activities, which appeared to contradict natural law. And, so the Christians are very fond of pointing to the quote-unquote, superhuman, supernatural powers of Jesus, which, of course, we accept. Okay, so if you can point to his supernatural activities, why can't we point to the supernatural activities of Mahaprabhu and say, there was another one, not the Son, but the Father? Anyway, something to consider. Once a pilgrim, Brahmana, was received at the house of Jagannath Mishra. And when he was offering food to the Godhead, the Lord appeared before him and partook of the prepared food. The edibles had to be rejected because the child touched them. And so the Brahmana had to make another preparation. Brahmanas cook for themselves. So you may be wondering, well, if he's a guest at the house of Jagannath Mishra, why is he cooking? Because Brahmins did not trust others to cook for them, because the karma, the consciousness, enters the food, so they would cook for themselves, and so that's why he's cooking. So, as you know, he was making the offering to his Govinda deity, I believe it was Govinda, chanting the appropriate mantras, and then, or Gopal deity, and then Mahaprabhu, as a little baby, would come and eat it. Okay, touch it, take it. Well, we can't offer it. So his Paka Brahman cooked again, made the offering. While making the offering, same thing happened. The next time, the same thing happened. And when this happened repeatedly for the third time, the baby was finally put to bed. In other words, they locked him in his room. He has to make an offering to his deity. It's not even about him eating. You could think, well, why didn't he just go to sleep hungry? It's like, just accept, the Lord does not want me to eat tonight, but he wanted to make offering to his Lord. At about 12 at night, when all the members of the house were fast asleep with their closed rooms, the pilgrim Brahmana offered his specially prepared foods to the deity, and in the same way, the baby Lord appeared before the pilgrim and spoiled his offerings. The Brahmana then began to cry. But since everyone was fast asleep, no one could hear him. At that time, the baby Lord appeared before the fortunate Brahma and disclosed his identity as Krishna himself. The Brahmana was forbidden to disclose this incident, and the baby returned to the lap of his mother, because Mahaprabhu came to play the role of a devotee, and sometimes he would reveal himself, Sadbhuja, or reveal himself as Krishna, or to Sarvabhauma, he revealed himself as Narayan and Krishna. But it was always like, hush, hush, don't tell anybody. So this is another incident. Don't tell anybody what you saw. I don't want anyone to know this. And you probably know the conversation, but it was interesting. The Brahmin is like, why are you doing this? Well, what's going on here? And Nimai says, well, you're just calling me to eat. So, I'm coming. You're calling, I'm coming. It's like, it's not a problem. This is what's going on. And then, how could the Brahmin understand that? So Mahaprabhu had to reveal, I'm Krishna. And then the Brahmin's like, he went into ecstasy. I don't know if you know what ecstasy is like, but you basically go crazy from the material perspective, Have you ever seen people in love? They're kind of a little crazy sometimes. You're like, you fall in love with someone and it's just like, it's like you're intoxicated with hormones, kind of. So this ecstasy of prema, it's not hormonal ecstasy. But it's very intense. And this Brahman, it's like, he went nuts completely, as you could imagine. We would also go nuts if we saw Krishna, wouldn't you? I hope so. If you didn't, something's wrong with you. Okay, we're going to continue reading. Is that the lyrics? Bless the Lord, O my soul, worship His holy name. That's another song. Sing like never before, O my soul, I worship your holy name. Sun comes up, it's a new day dawning, it's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and wherever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Oh, nice. The song I was thinking is called, the lyrics are, Blessed be the holy name of the Lord, blessed be your holy name. That's like a pop song, I somehow heard it on the radio once. I was like, whoa, this is so interesting. Isn't that song interesting? Should we sing that at the Sunday feast? Is your husband going to sing that at the Sunday feast now? No, he's going to sing. He's going to sing a Bhaktivinoda Thakur song. Yeah, that's probably more appropriate for us. Okay, so we're going to continue reading. There are many similar incidents in his childhood. As a naughty boy, he sometimes used to tease the Orthodox Brahmanas who used to bathe in the Ganges. When the Brahmanas complained to his father that he was splashing them with water instead of attending school, the Lord suddenly appeared before his father as though just coming from school, with all his school clothes and books. And I think some ink on his hand also. At the bathing ghat, in other words, he didn't go to school. They would complain, your son's harassing us and he's not in school. At the bathing ghat, he also used to play jokes on the neighboring girls who engaged in worshiping Shiva in hopes of getting good husbands. This is a common practice amongst unmarried girls in Hindu families. While they were engaged in such worship, the Lord naughtily appeared before them and said, My dear sisters, please give me all the offerings you have just brought to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is my devotee, and Parvati is my maidservant. If you worship me, then Lord Shiva and all the demigods will be more satisfied. Some of them refused to obey the naughty Lord, and he would curse them, that due to their refusal, they would be married to old men who had 7 children by their previous wives. Out of fear, and sometimes out of love, the girls would also offer him various goods. And then the Lord would bless them and assure them that they would have very good young husbands and they would be mothers of dozens of children. The blessings would enliven the girls, but they used to often complain of these incidents to their mothers. Well, as we know, young boys do have a tendency to tease girls. So sometimes I joke and I say, well, if you're a young boy and you're teasing a girl and your mother complains to you, you shouldn't do that. You can say, it's not my fault. I just inherited it from Krishna. It's his nature. And we're all reflections of his nature, so I got it from him. What can I do? If he didn't tease girls, I wouldn't be teasing them. But it's a fact that young boys like to tease girls, especially the ones they like. Girls, that's how you know. You probably already know this. That's how you know the young boys like you, because they tease you. That means they like you. But this was Mahaprabhu's mercy. But, he exhibits these qualities that we see, we're familiar with in this world, but this is the transcendental origin of them. And of course, he blesses everyone in his Lilas. So all those girls are blessed, except the ones that refused, who are now going to marry old men with 7 kids. In this way, the Lord passed his early childhood. When he was just 16 years old, he started his own Chatushpati, so 16. I thought he started 11 or 12. Village school conducted by a learned Brahmana. In this school, which meant basically a tree, that was the school. In this school, he would simply explain Krishna, even in readings of grammar. Srila Jiva Goswami, in order to please the Lord, later composed a grammar in Sanskrit, in which all the rules of grammar were explained with examples that used the holy names of the Lord. This grammar is still current. It is known as Hari Nam Amrita Vyakarana, and is prescribed in the syllabus of schools in Bengal. Isn't that cool? Well, what actually happened was that, as we told the story in the last class, I believe it was the last class, Mahaprabhu did not exhibit his Leela as a devotee until he went to Gaya and met Ishwara Puri and came back kind of crazy. His mother thought he was crazy. He was madly intoxicated. And I was reading this morning, it said that the ecstasies that Mahaprabhu exhibited, especially in the latter part of his life, no one had ever seen that before. So his mother thought he was crazy. The neighbors thought he was like mad. And so they actually filled a tank with oil called Vishnu oil, and I don't know what Vishnu oil is, but it's an oil that cools the body. So doctors thought there's too much heat in the body and it's causing this imbalance, which is making him crazy. And then Srivas came and he said, Sachi, what are you doing? Bathing your son in this vat of oil. She said, well, he's got this disease and this is the recommendation by the doctor. And Srivas said, I want that disease. He said he doesn't have a disease, he has prema. So now, as Prabhupada said, as a God-intoxicated man, it was only Krishna. Everything he explained was Krishna. He was, a devotee only sees Krishna everywhere. That's, if you're, Krishna says that in the Gita, Isopanishad, their verses. Sees me everywhere, everything in me. I'm never lost to him. He's never lost to me. Yomam paschati sarvatra. So, what's going on is now he's, Mahabhagavat, seeing Krishna everywhere. So everything he's explaining is, everything is Krishna's energy. Everything is Krishna. There's nothing but Krishna. So he's explaining to his students. And they're like, what the? They were like, we came to this school I don't know what the blank they said, but it was, you understand, they were like, this is crazy. Because they were going to that school to become scholars. And so there's a standard education. Can you imagine you're like in Harvard or Oxford or Cambridge or some prestigious school, and you got some hippie professor who's just like, kind of like a madman, just giving class and laughing, and you're like, you're not learning anything. And he's teaching this, teaching you a subject in a totally unconventional way. You're no longer learning grammar. He goes, what are the grammatical rules? It's just Krishna. It's only Krishna is everything. What does this word mean? It means Krishna. And so they're thinking, we're going to be fools. We're not getting a proper education. We need to learn what we need to learn, and we're not learning it here. So they went to Mahaprabhu's teacher. His name is Gangadas. And they said, Gangadas, can you talk to him? This is what he's doing. So Gangadas spoke to him, and Mahaprabhu said, okay. Shabtike. Acha. He calmed down a little bit, but it was hard to calm him down because now he was manifesting this mood of separation, Radharani, and separation is where you experience the highest ecstasy. So it was after he met Ishwara Puri that he started teaching in this way. Before, it was just a normal teacher. And but Srila Jiva Goswami, as we read, took advantage to show how Krishna is related in grammar. At least, it wasn't showing it as Mahaprabhu was, but he was using names of Krishna. That's the point. He was using names of Krishna to explain grammatical rules. Okay. Pradyumna wants to hear any of my Pandit's classes. You can. It's possible. When you hear these Lilas of Mahaprabhu and you start going into ecstasy, thinking, I would love to be in those Lilas, the good news is you can be in those Lilas if that's your desire. So that's the beauty. You get two for the price of one. We say we go to Braj, we get trained up, we become purified, we go back to Godhead. To Braj, Goloka Braj. Apricot Leela. But if you desire, Pradyumna, and all of you, you can also go into Mahaprabhu's Leela. Good news, right? Sound good? You can go into Mahaprabhu's Leela also. So all these pastimes we can enter one day. And so if this attracts you, then remember there is a price to pay. But the price you pay is always in consideration of what you get. And if you get more, you pay more. And you're willing to pay more for a product that does everything you want it to do and more. And if a product doesn't, you'll say, why is it so expensive? But if it does, if it's a top-rated product and it does everything that you need it to do, you're willing to pay for it, right? So you can enter Krishna Leela, you can enter Mahaprabhu Leela eternally, because there's a Navadvip in the spiritual world. So you can expand and be in both places. Don't try to figure it out. Don't try to ask me to explain how to figure it out. Just, if I'm in one Leela experience, how does the other one experience the one? If I'm in Navadvip, do I still experience the Braj Leela? And don't go there. Just understand Krishna will fulfill that desire. Marco says, I hope someday some devotee will make a film about Lord Chaitanya's life. That would be great. Well, there are a lot of these old-time films. If you, they're probably all in Bengal. Oh, there you go. Tanya's right on top of it. Nimai of Nadi. Hori Horaye Namo Krishna Yadavai Namo Hari. You'll hear that song a lot. Gopa Govinda Ram Shimadhusudan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Advaita. Yeah, it's a nice movie. But it would be nice. So Marco, you raise the 20 million, and when you get it, give me a call, and I'll help you figure out how we're going to do it. But first, I would love to do the scene of Krishna leaving Vrindavan, like maybe a whole feature film, just Krishna leaving Vrindavan, and we have to pass out. We show it in the theater, and we have to pass out tissues because everyone's going to be crying. Of course, the beginning is, you do a summary of Krishna Lila, who he is and the love of the gopis, and how much they love him and intense and how it is, and then he leaves and everyone in the audience is crying and fainting because we're supposed to feel these emotions for Krishna, right? I know. I'm sure, Marco, when you were young and your girlfriend left you for another guy, you were heartbroken. And you wrote a song. My baby left me for another guy. And now I'm blue. So, that doesn't really help you much in your spiritual path. But if you feel that way for Krishna, then we're making progress. Okay. So, we're going to end class here, and we will continue reading. And maybe Nadia, you can remind me where we left off. I don't know if I can bookmark here in Folio. Maybe there's a way. Does anybody know? You can bookmark your spot in the database. Well, I won't waste your time. I will look through and see if there's bookmarks. Although I'm wasting your time now looking, I don't see any. If anybody knows, send me a message. Bookmark, I found it. Fantastic. Of course, I don't know if it's going to bookmark where we left off. That's another thing. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Anyway, thank you for coming. We will see you, some of you, for Japa. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.